All right, let's be real for a second. U.S. immigration law can feel like an absolute maze of jargon. But today on The Explainer, we're cutting right through all that noise. We are going to break down exactly what a T visa is, in simple terms. We'll be focusing straight on the facts and the actual structure of this incredibly unique and highly guarded protection.
It's a really fascinating question to ask. What actually happens when an immigration system actively tries to protect the most vulnerable people within its borders? Well, the answer is the T visa. This specific legal status serves as a literal lifeline for survivors of severe human trafficking. It's an entire legal pathway designed from the ground up to offer safety, stability, and a real future to folks who have endured some pretty unimaginable exploitation.
Okay, let's dive into this. Congress actually created the T visa back in the year 2000 with this brilliant dual purpose. It has a primary humanitarian goal, protecting victims of severe trafficking, but it pairs that directly with a law enforcement goal. The system basically provides an incredible incentive. You get legal status and protection in exchange for reporting the victimization. This gives the authorities the exact leverage they need to dismantle these criminal trafficking rings.
So, to really grasp the T visa in simple terms, we have to break down the first major eligibility requirement. A person must be a victim of what's called a severe form of trafficking. But what does that actually mean in the real world without all the heavy legal jargon? It specifically refers to either sex trafficking or labor trafficking that involves force, fraud, or coercion. We're not just talking about bad working conditions here. It's a situation where a person is fundamentally stripped of their free will to leave through those three mechanisms: force, fraud, or coercion.
And here's something absolutely crucial to understand about how the law defines coercion. Trafficking isn't always physical chains and locked doors. Very often, it's psychological warfare. The law fully recognizes that coercion includes threats of serious harm, which, by the way, can be financial or reputational, as well as the abuse or even the threatened abuse of the legal process. For example, a trafficker might use debt bondage or threaten someone with deportation if they don't comply. This broad, realistic definition is a game changer because it reflects how modern trafficking actually operates.
All right, so what are the main hurdles a person actually has to clear to qualify? There are 4 core requirements. First, as we just talked about, being a victim of severe trafficking. Second, physical presence in the U.S., meaning they're literally here on account of that trafficking. Third, compliance with reasonable requests from law enforcement to help catch the traffickers. And fourth, they must be generally admissible to the U.S. or get a waiver if they aren't. Oh, and I really want to highlight a massive update here. A 2024 regulatory rule change completely eliminated this old, grueling requirement where victims had to prove extreme hardship if they were deported. Getting rid of that burden made the whole process so much more trauma-informed and accessible.
Now, I want to pause here and bust a pretty massive myth right now. While cooperation with law enforcement is the standard, there are absolute ironclad exemptions. Children under the age of 18 are never legally required to cooperate with law enforcement to be eligible for a T visa. Never. Additionally, adults who have suffered profound physical or psychological trauma that literally prevents them from cooperating are also completely exempt. The law deliberately builds in these protections because it recognizes the intense vulnerability of these specific groups.
But, and there is a but here, there is a stark, unavoidable bottleneck: 5,000. That is the strict annual cap on the number of principal T1 visas available each fiscal year under the law. I know, it sounds like a decent amount, but unfortunately, when you look at the sheer scope of human trafficking, it is a hard, restrictive ceiling. When the number of eligible applicants exceeds this cap in a given year, it creates massive waiting lists, and individuals are placed into a deferred action status until a new visa number opens up.
And honestly, the reality of that 5,000 visa cap becomes pretty terrifying when you review the historical processing data. The demand for this protection has just absolutely skyrocketed over the years. This massive surge in applications, combined with extreme, meticulous scrutiny on every single file, has created the absolutely massive processing backlogs we are seeing today in 2026.
Because of those huge backlogs, applicants are facing a pretty grueling timeline. Let's walk through what this journey realistically looks like in 2026. After filing on day 1, an applicant waits about 3 to 6 months for a preliminary review. This is called a bona fide determination. But getting the actual final T visa approval, that's a different story. That is currently taking anywhere from 2.5 to over 3 years. And finally, if they want to adjust their status to a green card down the line, they generally have to wait another 3 years of continuous physical presence after their T visa is officially approved. It is a very long journey.
Now, you might be wondering, how on earth does someone survive a 3-year wait?
That brings us directly back to that bona fide determination, or BFD. If the initial review of the application shows it appears legitimate and complete on its face, the government issues a BFD. This is an absolutely crucial safety net. It grants the victim a work permit and an administrative stay of removal, which basically means protection from deportation. This allows survivors to actually work legally, support themselves, and stay totally safe during that agonizingly long wait for a final decision.
So the crucial point we need to hit is what happens when that final approval finally arrives. The immediate benefits are, no exaggeration, life-changing. An approved T visa grants a legal stay in the United States for up to 4 years. It comes with an official work permit, access to a social security number, and opens up eligibility for certain federal public benefits. But most importantly, it establishes a direct, secure pathway to a green card, providing the ultimate stability and independence that these survivors have fought so incredibly hard for.
And the good news keeps coming, because the protection umbrella of the T visa is designed to extend way beyond just the principal victim. Depending on the survivor's age, they can actually apply for derivative status. This protects their spouse, their children, and sometimes even their parents or minor siblings. The whole idea is that the law ensures the survivor never ever has to make the impossible choice between their own freedom and the safety of their family.
Okay, real talk for a second, because I need to deliver a very critical real-world warning. If an applicant or an approved T visa holder leaves the United States without first obtaining a very specific travel permission known as advanced parole, they risk literally everything. A T visa is not a guaranteed travel document that just lets you hop on a plane and re-enter the country. Leaving without advanced parole can automatically terminate your status and destroy any chance of ever getting a green card. If you take just one practical rule away from this explainer, let it be this: never leave the U.S. without advanced parole.
So despite the incredibly strict scrutiny and those agonizing wait times we talked about, the guidance for legal practitioners in 2026 is crystal clear. Your pending T visa is the most secure pathway to obtaining legal status. Abandoning a strong case is the worst possible outcome. That bona fide determination truly does protect applicants. Staying the course is absolutely vital.
Wow, okay, we've covered a massive amount of ground today on this explainer, but I want to leave you with one final thought. Now that you understand the true lifeline a T visa provides in simple terms, how can this knowledge help protect the vulnerable people right in your own community? Because honestly, knowing what trafficking actually looks like and knowing that there is a real, tangible legal pathway out empowers you to be an informed advocate. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and keep learning.